Hi, I'm Kim Williams from Kansas State University, and this eGrow University presentation provides more in-depth consideration to watering potted crops in follow-up to the lecture of Overview of Greenhouse Irrigation Systems. Hand watering is, of course, an option that allows growers to irrigate individual pots on an as-needed basis. While this may be necessary in a retail setting where there are many different plant species and a range of container sizes, or perhaps during plug production where trays of different species at different stages of seedling development sit side by side, hand watering during crop production is exceedingly expensive due to labor costs, and this process should almost always be automated. In this presentation, we'll consider the true cost of hand watering along with some options for automating the process. Consider this cost analysis. A bench of 200 square feet requires about 75 gallons of water at each irrigation. The frequency of watering will vary depending on season of the year, but let's assume that the crops on the bench are watered twice per week, which is 104 times per year. At a water flow rate of 8 gallons per minute, which is typical for a 3/4 inch hose, it will take 9.5 minutes to irrigate the bench. This translates to 16.25 hours per year. At an hourly rate of $11 with 23.5% benefits, the cost to irrigate this 4-foot by 100-foot bench is $221 per year, or about $1.10 per square foot per year. The cost of most of the automated irrigation systems will pay for themselves within a very short amount of time, just in reduction of labor costs. Providing fertilizer solution to crops is critical, and it can be done with both hand watering and automated systems. Recall that open irrigation systems are those in which the irrigation solution is applied to the root medium surface and excess solution leaches out of the bottom of the pot. Hand watering is an open system. Closed irrigation systems are those in which irrigation solution is collected and reused, such as with flood floors, as in the photos on the right. Tube watering is an open system and has been the standard for automatic watering of potted crops. Water is carried by microtubes through an emitter to each container. Various types of emitters are designed to operate differently, such as those that can be turned off when the pot in it is removed. Plant foliage remains dry, which is an advantage, especially for gesneriids like Gloxinia. Disadvantages include difficulty in thoroughly wetting coarse root media, as the high percolation rate of water through a small part of the root zone does not contribute to the entire root zone being moistened. And another problem with microtube systems can be rodents eating through microtube lines, especially of course in outdoor installations. The cost of components for this type of system can be around 50 cents per square foot, so it would be paid for with labor savings from hand watering in less than a year. Now, less of labor is required when these fall mums were set out, but labor saved over the rest of the production cycle. On the right, dahlias were planted on the transplant line, placed on carts, and then set on the field with drip tube irrigation. Spray stakes and dribble rings have modified breakers to provide irrigation solution to a larger area of the root medium surface. This can be especially useful with root media that are more porous and when plants are produced in containers larger than, say, 6.5 inch diameter. Overhead sprinklers for container plants are also an open system. The foliage gets wet, so depending on the species under production, this may contribute to some disease problems. Riser pipes or dripless overhead sprinkler systems are installed to deliver a 360-degree pattern of irrigation solution. These systems are inexpensive to build, costing less than 50 cents per square foot bench space, but they do not deliver water efficiently to the containers. That is, much of the water is deflected out of the pot by plant foliage, or it hits the ground instead of the plant in the pot, depending on pot spacing. Mat or capillary watering may offer a good alternative for potted crop growers who have different pot sizes on the same bench over the course of a year. In these systems, a fabric mat is kept moist with irrigation solution delivered via irrigation tape, for example, and pots on the mat take up the solution through holes in the bottoms of the containers. Benches must be level. Algal buildup is almost always a problem. That's why you see the dark mat covering, the dark porous plastic or weed barrier covering the moist mat. And root rots can occur if the substrate is not allowed to dry down adequately between keeping the mat moist. A significant percentage of water applied is lost through evaporation from the mat surface. The maximum cost for components of this type of system is about $1 per square foot, which is the same as the labor cost to hand water for 1 year. Sub-irrigation benches, troughs, and floors are closed irrigation systems. Pots are grown in a watertight bench. A nutrient solution is pumped into the bench at a faster rate than it drains from it. Water and nutrients are absorbed through holes in the bottom of the containers. Needed fertilizer rates are typically only half of what's used in open systems, and water is efficiently used because it's recycled. Irrigation solution is typically treated to control for pathogens, as root rot diseases can spread quickly in closed recirculating systems. A challenge with using flood floors to irrigate an entire bay is that it can't always be used when plants are at different stages of development, are in different pot sizes, or there are different species that would all be flooded at once. However, it does work well in situations when all plants are uniform. If flood floors are being used like this, even if only a few plants on the floor need to be watered, the whole floor has to be flooded. Relative humidity does tend to build in the canopy of the plants, so growers will place bottom heat under ebb and flood benches or flood floors. These systems are expensive, costing as much as $5 to $7 per square foot for all materials, including holding tanks and pumps. However, growers find that these systems pay for themselves in less water and fertilizer use and in lower labor inputs. Low spots are a real problem for irrigation uniformity, and this speaks to the need to ensure that flood floors and benches fill and drain uniformly. The variation and tweaks to these different systems are endless. If you're hand watering, you can save labor costs in the long run by converting to automated irrigation. Thanks goes to the Glockner Foundation and the other partners from various universities for supporting the eGrow project.